As illegal immigration continues to fuel California's population surge, middle-class families continue to leave the state rather than watch their quality of life decline further. Businesswoman Lana Zweigart decided that placing her son in a crowded high school where many students do not speak English was simply not an option. Rather than pay the high tuition costs of a private school, Zweigart decided it was time to move her family and her company out of California. Her story is the story of middle-class Californians and business owners that have simply had enough of the declining quality of life and no longer have any faith that Sacramento and Washington will act to secure the border and protect American citizens.
I've been in California for 31 years. I have 2 children, and I have progressively felt the decline of where I live within my business, within my family, within the surroundings of the Inland Empire. I can no longer have a business here, and I'm ready to move out. Well, actually, I had never been to California, and I had a successful business in the Midwest, and I decided to bring the business here to California, which was 1978. I had a friend who was accepted to UCLA Law School, and he asked me if I'd like to go along, and he presented me that, and I packed my business up and came to California. It was wonderful. When I first came into California, I had never been here, and so what I did was searched around the area that I thought would be good for us, and his schooling was LA, and I decided that Pomona area would be good for us, which was wonderful. Well, Pomona, when I first moved in, was a wonderful little small community, very family-orientated. I fit in very well. I felt that this could be a home for us. Upon arriving in 1978, never had been here before, I was overjoyed with where I was. I had the ocean, I had the mountains, I had it all. It was wonderful. Coming from the Midwest, we didn't have a lot of that. So I knew that this would be my home. And with being in Pomona, I mean, I would go up there now and, well, excuse me, I won't go up there now. I feel that Pomona is, I can't go there any longer. With my surroundings of being bombarded by illegal immigration, I'm outraged. Everywhere I go in the community, there's Spanish being spoken. The schools, they're catering to the illegals, and I see it that way. When we get things from the school district, it comes in Spanish. When I pick up a phone, I have to press 1 for English. When I go into a court system, they have an interpreter for those people who cannot speak English. I'm frustrated. I'm more than frustrated. I'm leaving California, but I have to wonder, how long is it going to be before you have to press 2 or 3 to get to English? Hey, one of the primary reasons that I'm taking my family out of here is because of the public school system. We have been very fortunate to have both of my children in a fundamental school, so it is not by neighborhood. And if I would have had to send my children to their neighborhood schools, we would have had to speak Spanish in order for him to go there. I speak English, I want things in English, and I demanded that our school not cater to Spanish speaking. They have to learn English. I've had my son who had gone into a local high school for summer school, and he came home fully distressed. We have an older daughter, and we started noticing the problems when she was a junior in high school. She had milk thrown at her because she was a white girl, and they threw it at her, and they would not let her go into the bathroom. She had to walk home because we lived near the high school. She had to walk home because they wouldn't let her into the bathroom. And she was an honor student. She was straight A up on the principal's honor roll. And I knew at that point that there was going to be some trouble going on. Now with our son, who is now going into high school, he would be in that same district. I think one of the main reasons, and primarily it is the ultimate reason of us moving and leaving our home. Leaving our friends of 31 years, which is like family, leaving all my business contacts. However, I am taking my business with me. The main reason is illegal immigration. Illegal immigration to me is overpopulation. The freeways are gridlock. what comes out of their cars. I have to get my car inspected. They don't. And I've been studying this issue for 15 years. I've been an advocate of Sacramento, the White House. We are American citizens. Don't we come first? The answer is no. I already know the answer is no. Well, I feel with the meltdown, the California meltdown that is happening now with the budget, that's just outrageous, and it's a broken state. And I have two words, and I tell everyone this. It's illegal immigration. I feel Sacramento has betrayed me. I feel it does not speak for me. I feel that they are not taking care of me. These are our elected officials that we've put into office that are supposed to be speaking for American citizens. I feel like they're pandering to the illegals. We're a border state, and they don't want any rift with Mexico. See, how I feel about this is Mexico has its own government. They're supposed to take care of their people. The United States has our own government. We take care of our people. Now, this misconception about the jobs that Americans won't do, you know what I have to say about that? Bullshit. You know, I'll be damned if I'll let California bring my family, my business, and everything that pertains to me for being here for 31 years down. I'm not going to do it any longer. They can have it. I'm leaving.
For more information and to find out how you can help, contact Californians for Population Stabilization at www.capsweb.org.
People here are very, very nice.
Barbara Westerhoff grew up at the Hillarita and continues to live in the affordable housing complex in Tiburon. She knows she's raising her children in one of the most desirable counties in the world.
We've never, ever had a problem. I walk down the street, people say good morning to me. I feel so fortunate.
Marin also happens to be one of the whitest. In Belvedere, next door, 94% of the residents are white, the highest percentage in the Bay Area. That's according to a list of the whitest cities in the Bay Area, compiled by the Bay Citizen based on recent census data. 7 of the top 10 cities are in Marin County. The federal government recently took Marin County to task for not reaching out more to people of color when it comes to providing affordable housing. The feds say Marin is not fully in compliance with the 1964 Civil Rights Act, among other regulations. A county spokesman tells me that most of the compliance problems were record-keeping issues, and that it's difficult to build any new housing in Marin.
When I pick up my grandson or take him to school, I see maybe 4 Latino children there and 1 African American, 2 with my grandson. That's something's wrong.
Nancy Reed has lived in Marin City, a traditionally African American town, for 28 years.
Why they're not doing more? Now they have to be forced to do more.
Marin County is now promising to do more in a report just issued this week. The feds are reviewing it.
A very good evening to you. It's called white flight, but is it happening here in London? The phrase refers to white people leaving cities because they don't like immigrants settling in their neighbourhood. Well, BBC London has obtained new figures which do show rapid change in London's ethnic makeup. We've also been speaking to people who say white flight is happening, but are they right? In a moment we'll be discussing the issue, but first Gareth Furby has this report.
Are white people leaving parts of London? Trevor Phillips from the Equality and Human Rights Commission thinks they may be.
Virtually every big city, there are places where different kinds of people feel uncomfortable, whether that's Asians in so-called white areas or white people in so-called black areas. We know that white flight is accelerating.
So is Trevor Phillips right? Well, the census doesn't tell us much because it's too out of date. So we asked the government for some statistics it does collect every year on the population of London's primary schools.
Looking back 5 years, in every borough, the percentage of white British children has fallen. Across inner London, on average, under 22% of primary school children are white British. In Hackney and Tower Hamlets, it's under 15%. In Newham, under 12%.
Of course, this doesn't prove white flight. It may just be down to different birth rates, for example. But it does show change in London. and nowhere it seems may be changing faster than here.
The average fall across London since 2003 is just over 6%. In Barking and Dagenham, it's almost 3 times that figure.
I was 7 when the war broke out in 1939. This was soon after I got married, taken in 1953 in Malvern Drive. I was very happy. We were all very happy.
But after a lifetime here, Norma, who doesn't want to give her full name, is ready to leave.
Because Barking is not what Barking was. Nearly all the shops are foreign.
Why can't you mix with different cultures?
I do. I have mixed with different cultures. I mean, I've worked with some of these people and they've been absolutely lovely. But that doesn't mean to say I want to live cheek by jowl with them and slowly but surely find that I'm the only person left in an area where everybody else has moved away from, and that's what's going on.
The Isle of Wight is where Alf Young now lives.
They want to take over. That does annoy me.
He's left behind a lifetime in Dagenham.
The Indians, the Poles and all that all turned up, and they just took over. It wasn't Dagenham as I knew Dagenham years ago.
What do you mean?
Even in the football crowd, the nights have been pulled, seen it in the pub. I don't want to know.
More and more children moving into the schools who cannot speak a word of English.
Tony Richards is a former journalist and qualified barrister. He's staying in Barking, but wants something done.
And there's so many people who are in the process of selling their houses and moving. And I know a good many people who have moved, and I'm still in touch with them.
And they're white?
Oh, yes, they're all, white British, yes.
But one expert on population movements says London has always been changing.
London attracts people in, and then it just redistributes them within London. It redistributes them, some of them away from London.
The prediction from the Greater London Authority is that by 2026, pretty much 40% of London's population will be from a black, Asian or minority ethnic group. Rapid change that will face both supporters and opponents. Gareth Furby, BBC London News.
Well, joining me here is Danny Sriskandarajah from the Institute of Public Policy and Research, and also Sir Andrew Green from Migration Watch. Welcome to you both. We heard some strong views and concerns there. One thing that's clear, Danny, is that the overall trend in the change of the makeup of London. Are you surprised by those figures?
I'm not surprised, because there's no denying that there is a lot of population change, and what's happening across the UK is probably most acute in a place like London. But I think there are 2 very important things to note here. One is that, yes, there are some people moving, and yes, there are people, like we've just heard, who are unhappy about the racial mix-up of places that they're living in, but the evidence suggests that what's really driving some of this movement is not to do with race necessarily, but to do with class and socio-economic status. That young people with families want to move out of London, older people don't like to live in crowded places, and they're moving out to the home county. So I don't think it's race that's necessarily driving it. And the second point is that this has been happening in London for a long, long time, and not only has London survived, but it's thrived. London's success is built on the fact that it is a diverse place.
But one of those issues, Sir Andrew, is obviously the rate of change, and in some areas like Barking and Dagenham, it's particularly acute. If we just take some of those figures, the number of white children in primary schools has gone down from 70% 4 years ago to just over 50%. You know, we've heard that that is a natural rate of change. Should we be concerned?
Well, I think that people are concerned, and I think we should be concerned. Yes, I think Trevor Phillips is right. There clearly is white flight. Migration Watch has done some work on this, and we found a close link between the number of people who leave a particular borough and the degree of ethnicity. So there's no question that there is a link. Of course, there are many reasons why...
Link. Well, it might be correlated,
well,
but there's no causal link.
There are many reasons why people leave London. But the basic reason for this change, this very substantial change, is that the government have lost control of our borders. And the flow of immigrants into the country as a whole, many of whom come to London, has gone up 4 times.
So can I just be clear, Sir Andrew, you're saying there is white flight and that cause is immigration?
I'm saying there is white flight, that immigration is a factor, probably, but there are many other reasons, as Danny says, why people leave London. But if you correlate the 2, if you look at where people have gone from and the change in the ethnicity, there is a link between the 2.
This is a very complex process, and to reduce it to something about race and calling it white flight either means you've misunderstood the complexity and the various reasons why people move, or you're trying to misrepresent it and make this about race.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you have a point. It is very complex, and these numbers in particular are not terribly strong. But it is clear that it is one element. And the other thing that is clear is that the reason that the whole picture is changing is because of the very large scale of immigration. That is obvious.
Let me just say, one of the interesting points is to distinguish, as I think you alluded to, Danny, is between race and immigration. Because one of the views that we've heard a lot, and that's shared by both the indigenous population and British people who are from different ethnic backgrounds, is that they feel has the time come now for a limit on immigration?
I don't think so. I think we've just been through a period of economic boom where we've needed workers, and naturally we've had workers. But there were periods, for example, in the 1980s, when the UK and indeed London were losing large numbers of people, and we were talking and being worried about population decline.
That was a long time ago. I think there's absolutely no question that the government have lost control of immigration. The public want to see it dealt with, and they're absolutely right.
OK. Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed.
People were shocked to hear that an emergency primary school had opened in North County Dublin almost exclusively for the children of immigrants. How could such blatant segregation be allowed to take place in our modern, prosperous Ireland, we thought? Well, a major new study of another part of Dublin, this time Dublin 15, due to be released next Friday, shows that this was no isolated happening. With overcrowding in our schools and a chronic lack of basic facilities or social planning, many communities are in crisis, and Irish and non-Irish families are being pitted against each other in a fight for pretty meagre resources. This study raises serious concerns for the future. RT's education correspondent Emma O'Kelly has the details.
If this is allowed to go unchecked, where ghettoisation becomes the norm, I think we're building up huge social problems for ourselves in the very near future.
We're in the minority now in our community and in our schools, as far as I can see.
I refuse to believe that anybody founded the school with the idea of making it discriminatory or segregational.
But you can't build 3,000 houses in a greenfield site and have nothing there.
10 years ago, this whole area west of Dublin City was open countryside. Since then, it's experienced a population explosion unrivaled in Western Europe. The development boom is coming to an end now, but according to the authors of a comprehensive new study on this area, the task of building viable communities is proving far more troublesome. Enda McGorman is principal of Mary Mother of Hope Primary School. He's also one of the authors of this report.
This is my 23rd welcoming ceremony since the school opened.
Well, Mary Mother of Hope School was established in 2001 as a little school on the very outskirts of Dublin with 3 teachers and 55 children. Now, 6 years later, we have 700 children on staff. We have 39 teachers. We have at least half of our enrolment will be newcomer students, and just the whole profile of the school has changed completely. The study grew out of a sense that as school principals, each one of us were speaking to each other about the difficulties our schools were facing, the lack of attention from the Department of Education, the lack of any policy development from the Department of Education, and we came, I suppose, out of a sense of complete frustration and annoyance and indeed anger, to the conclusion that the only way that we're going to get our story told and story heard is by commissioning a piece of research that will document the realities for schools, for school principals, for teachers and for parents in the Dublin 15 area.
In Dublin 15, massive new estates have joined old established suburbs such as Blanchardstown and Castleknock. The population has exploded, in recent years up by 27%. That's 3 times the national growth rate. And this has put huge pressure on schools, already bursting at the seams. Over the past 3 years, enrolment's up by almost a quarter. This study estimates an additional 850 children will be looking for school places next year. That's 31 additional classes. Over the next 5 years, it estimates 136 extra classes will be needed to meet demand. Inevitably, families are being squeezed.
Rebecca got in to the school when she was 4. She got in literally by the skin of her teeth. Coaches was 4 in March and he couldn't get in, so we'll be 5.5 next year going to school. The main priority for anyone when I moved out, which is the main priority before I even had children, was where's going to be the national school. And it's like literally there, I can see the school from my front door and I can't get my son into it.
The one thing that parents will tell me time and time again, we took it for granted when we bought our house out here, there would be a place for our child. It is not too much to ask for. We've paid our stamp duty, we pay our taxes, we do everything that is asked of us, and yet when we want to put our child into school, there aren't enough places.
But it's not just the population boom that's causing difficulties, its ethnic makeup is equally dramatic. Census figures show no less than a quarter of Dublin 15's population is ethnic minority. In some areas, the ratio's half and half. In the schools where pressure for places is intense, immigrant communities are really losing out. This report warns against segregation, but in one part of Dublin 15, Diswellstown, that's already happened.
Every morning the bus comes here to pick up our children to the school by 8:15 it was. They have 2 buses. So, and in the afternoon, we come back here by 1:45 to pick up our children back home. And we do this every morning.
The school they attend is an emergency school set up when it became clear the local schools, Catholic schools, were full up. Their enrolment policies give preference to Catholics.
I'm just applied almost to 6 schools in this local area, and all the applications were rejected from 6 schools.
What did they say to you?
They said to me, because we're Muslims, and here the priorities for Catholics are number 1.
The Irish people have proven that they are not racist, and they don't try to segregate anyone for no reason, especially not children. The only reason for this is the fact that there are so many foreign nationals.
Unintentionally, they're creating segregation within the new communities. You know, if we had the proper facilities in place and we had the proper schools in place with sufficient capacity for everybody, we could have a multicultural, you know, well-educated, multicultural, brilliant communities.
And that can't happen fast enough, according to this study. It's found evidence of what it calls white flight in Dublin 15. It warns against a downward spiral of ghettoisation. Of children leaving schools mid-cycle in recent years, almost half were Indigenous Irish, half ethnic minority. But the children who replaced them were mostly the children of immigrants, just 21% the children of Irish parents.
You bring this subject up and people think you're racist, like, you know what I mean? We're not racist, like, we're a minority now in our community and in our schools, as far as I can see. There's classes over there in the schools and a majority foreign national children.
Are you saying you just want them to come and work here? They shouldn't have children, they shouldn't do anything, just come and contribute to our economy and don't take anything from the economy? I mean, that's unfair.
Yeah, fighting a losing battle, like, you know what I mean? As far as the government is concerned, like, you know, they just, you know, they've no interest now, like, you know, Dublin 15, yeah, it's overrun and it's, there's too many houses, but they're still building.
On Friday it emerged that the Department of Education has plans for an accelerated school building programme to include Dublin 15, but this morning the author of this study warned that without proper planning, more schools could mean more segregation, more situations like Diswellstown.
We knew there were 325 children chasing 189 places in just 2 schools. If the 3rd school had been planned, we would not have the situation arising that has arisen. Nobody wanted it, nobody wants it to continue, but here we are, determined to make the same mistakes again, and none of us want that.
You mean because these new schools aren't, as you see it, planned?
They're not planned. We don't know where they will be located, when they will be opened, who will be the patrons, what will be their enrolment policy, or how they will interface with existing schools, and that to me is a recipe for disaster.
And that report was from Emma O'Kelly.